Emily Carter, 32 years old. I used to believe betrayal would sound loud. I imagined screaming, door slamming, tears that wouldn't stop. Instead, the morning my future collapsed sounded like a coffee maker humming in my kitchen while birds chirped outside my apartment window. It was almost peaceful. Until I opened Instagram. I wrapped both hands around my coffee mug, while lazily scrolling through my feed expecting nothing more exciting than vacation photos, brunch pictures, and engagement announcements from people I barely remembered from college. Instead, I found my own boyfriend's post. 9 photos. A beach at sunset. Crystal blue water stretching endlessly behind him. Champagne glasses raised toward the fading light. A private villa overlooking the ocean. And standing beside him wearing a flowing white dress that danced in the sea breeze was a woman I had never seen before. His arm rested naturally around her waist. On her left hand sparkled a huge emerald-cut diamond. Not the oval diamond I had spent months helping him choose with excited conversations about our future. Not the ring I wore every day. This was another engagement ring. Another proposal. Another future. The caption beneath the photos read, "Sometimes life surprises you in the most magical ways. Feeling blessed beyond words." The comments were even worse. "Finally, I knew you two were meant to find each other again. Congratulations, she's gorgeous. About time you made it official." My heart should have shattered. Instead, everything became strangely quiet. My pulse slowed. The panic disappeared. It felt like every confusing moment over the previous 3 months suddenly slid into perfect alignment. The canceled dinner dates, the mysterious work trips, the phone calls he always stepped outside to answer, the weekends he claimed he needed space to think. Every excuse I'd accepted because I loved him. Every uneasy feeling I'd convinced myself was insecurity. I wasn't insecure. I had simply been lied to. I zoomed into every photograph. The woman laughed with her head resting lightly against his shoulder. One picture showed them clinking champagne glasses. Another showed them walking barefoot through the surf. One photo captured him kissing her forehead. In the final picture, he held her hand toward the sunset, so the diamond reflected golden light across the ocean. It looked like something from a luxury jewelry advertisement. My engagement ring wasn't anywhere. Not in his pocket. Not around his neck. Not on his hand. It had simply disappeared from his life. He was supposed to be spending the weekend helping his older sister renovate a nursery before her baby arrived. That was what he told me Thursday night while kissing my forehead. "I'll probably have terrible cell service," he'd said. "I'll miss you." I remembered smiling. "I'll miss you too." Now I stared at photographs, proving he hadn't been anywhere near his sister's house. He'd been building a completely different future. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I opened another window and began taking screenshots. Every image, every comment, every timestamp, every location tag, every username, every detail. Years earlier, my father had once told me something after catching a dishonest contractor trying to rewrite a contract. When people lie, he'd said they'll erase the evidence if you give them enough time. I never forgot that lesson. Within 5 minutes, everything was safely backed up in 3 different folders. Then, I did something I never imagined I'd do. I returned to the post. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Most people would have demanded answers, started a public argument, accused him of cheating. I simply typed, "Beautiful ring. Congratulations. She's a lucky woman." Then I pressed send. For nearly 30 seconds, I watched the comment sit beneath dozens of congratulations. No one reacted immediately. No one understood. I closed Instagram, opened my contacts, and dialed the wedding coordinator. She answered cheerfully. "Emily, good morning. I was actually about to email you about seating charts." "Good morning," I said evenly. "This is Emily Carter." There was a brief pause. "You sound different. Everything okay? I need to cancel our October wedding." Silence. "I'm sorry. Cancel." "Yes. I'm afraid there won't be a wedding." Her voice softened instantly. "Oh, did something happen?" "My boyfriend became engaged to another woman this weekend." She didn't speak. For several long seconds, neither did I. Finally, she whispered, "I'm so sorry. So on. She carefully explained cancellation procedures, deposits, vendor notifications, and timelines. I listened without emotion, writing notes exactly as though we were discussing an ordinary business contract. By the end of the call, she quietly said, "I've coordinated weddings for 15 years. I've seen cold feet. I've seen affairs. I've never seen someone discover it through Instagram. Neither have I." When I hung up, I didn't hesitate. The florist, the caterer, the photographer, the DJ. Every conversation followed the same pattern. Professional, brief, irreversible. Several vendors remembered us from meetings over the previous year. The photographer sounded genuinely heartbroken. "I still have your engagement photos on my editing drive. I thought you two looked so happy." "I thought so too. I'm terribly sorry. Thank you." The caterer asked whether I wanted to postpone instead. "No. The wedding is over." The reception venue confirmed most of the deposit would unfortunately be non-refundable. I understand. Losing money barely registered anymore. Compared to what I'd almost lost, $3,000 was nothing. Then came the hardest call. The church. Not because of my faith. Because it was his family's church. His grandparents had married there. His parents had married there. His younger sister had been baptized there. The sanctuary wasn't just a building. It represented generations of family tradition. The administrative assistant transferred me directly to Pastor Williams. "Emily," he greeted warmly, "what can I do for you?" I inhaled slowly. "I need to cancel our October ceremony." There was confusion in his voice. "Is Daniel aware of this request?" "He will be." Pause. "May I ask why?" "You'll receive an email in about 2 minutes. I've attached documentation. I believe it'll answer every question." After hanging up, I opened my laptop, attached every screenshot. Then I wrote only 3 short paragraphs. "Dear Pastor Williams, I respectfully request immediate cancellation of our October wedding ceremony. This morning I discovered that my boyfriend has become engaged to another woman, as evidenced in the attached public photographs. Thank you for your understanding, and I apologize for any inconvenience this causes the church. No accusation. No emotional language. Only facts." I pressed send. For a moment, I simply stared at the screen. One click. Months of planning disappeared. Then, I opened another email. This one was addressed to his parents. I attached every screenshot. I wrote nothing. No greeting. No explanation. No accusation. Sometimes silence forces people to confront the truth more honestly than words ever could. Less than 3 minutes later, my phone rang. "His father?" I answered. "Emily." His voice sounded confused. "What exactly am I looking at?" "The photographs Daniel posted this morning." Another silence. "That ring. It isn't yours." "No." "Where did he get it?" "I don't know." In the background, I heard his mother asking repeatedly, "What happened?" "Let me see." "Give me the phone." His father lowered his voice. "There has to be some explanation." "I hope there is. But I can't think of one that begins with another engagement ring." His mother finally took the phone. She was already crying. "Emily, please. You can't make any decisions until we understand what's happening." "I already have." "What do you mean?" "I've canceled the wedding." Everything became silent. Then she gasped. "You canceled the church?" "Yes." "The reception?" "Yes." "The vendors?" "All of them." "Oh my God." Her breathing became uneven. "You had no right to do that before speaking with us." I looked out my apartment window at people walking dogs beneath bright summer sunshine. Life outside continued as though nothing extraordinary had happened. I was the bride. It was my wedding too. I had every right. Her voice cracked. "Do you know what people will say?" I closed my eyes for a second. There it was. Not, "Emily, are you okay?" Not, "What did Daniel do?" Not even, "We'll help you through this." Her very first concern was the church gossip, the neighbors, the congregation, the image their family had carefully polished for decades. The shame. She whispered between sobs. "Our family will never recover from this." I answered quietly. "The shame belongs to the person who created it." "How can you say that?" she cried. Everyone will think our son is. I didn't post those photographs. He did. You don't understand. Her voice rose. People have watched Daniel grow up in that church. They watched you two get engaged. They've planned showers and parties. They'll think our family raised a. They'll think exactly what the evidence shows. A sharp inhale came through the speaker. Emily. What? Please don't do this. I'm not doing anything. I already finished doing it. I ended the call before she could answer. The apartment became perfectly silent again. For nearly a minute, I simply stood there staring at my reflection in the dark television screen. The woman staring back looked strangely composed, almost detached. Maybe shock looked like calm. Maybe heartbreak simply hadn't caught up yet. My phone vibrated again. Daniel's older sister. Decline. His younger brother. Decline. His best friend. Decline. Another friend. Decline. Messages poured in so quickly, they stacked on top of each other before I could read them. Emily, answer your phone. What happened? Daniel says, you're overreacting. Tell me this isn't true. You canceled the venue. Call me now. I turned the phone face down. If they wanted answers, there was only one person who owed them. It wasn't me. I opened my laptop again. One by one, I drafted formal cancellation notices to every remaining vendor. Each email was nearly identical. Due to unforeseen circumstances, our October wedding has been canceled. Please process the cancellation according to our agreement and advise regarding any available refunds. Documentation regarding the circumstances is attached. Thank you for everything you've done. Every email included the screenshots, not because I wanted revenge, because experience had taught me something. People rarely believe unbelievable stories without proof. I wasn't interested in debates. Evidence speaks more clearly than emotions ever can. By late afternoon, nearly every vendor had responded. The florist expressed sympathy. The caterer explained refund percentages. The DJ wished me peace. The photographer wrote something that stayed with me. Sometimes the hardest photographs to take are the ones that never happen. I read that sentence 3 times, then archived the email. Around 6 o'clock, I finally turned my phone over again. 83 unread messages, 26 missed calls, 4 voicemails. One voice message immediately began playing before I could stop it. Danielle, what the hell is wrong with you? His voice exploded through the speaker. My parents are freaking out. The church called them. The venue called me. Every vendor is canceling. Have you completely lost your mind? He never asked how I was, never apologized, never explained the photographs. His anger wasn't about betraying me. It was about losing control of the situation. You had no right to do this without talking to me. I swear, Emily, if you don't call me back right now. The recording ended. I deleted it, not because it hurt, because it confirmed everything I already knew. If there had been an innocent explanation, that voicemail was where it would have appeared. Instead, all I heard was outrage. Outrage that I'd acted before he could manage the narrative. Night settled over the city. I hadn't eaten all day. The untouched coffee from that morning had gone cold hours ago. I ordered soup from the restaurant downstairs because chewing felt like too much work. While waiting for the delivery, I wandered into the spare bedroom. Boxes of wedding decorations were stacked neatly against the wall. Handwritten seating charts, candles, table numbers, custom, welcome, signs. The ivory ribbon we'd chosen together because he said it matched my smile. I picked up one of the boxes. Inside lay dozens of invitations we hadn't mailed yet. Each envelope carried our names side by side. Emily Carter and Daniel Brooks. Together, forever. I let out a slow breath. One by one, I placed everything back exactly where I'd found it. Not because I intended to keep it, because I wasn't ready to decide what to do with dreams that had suddenly become trash. The doorbell rang. Dinner. The young delivery driver smiled politely, completely unaware that my life had collapsed before lunchtime. Have a nice evening. You too. Funny how ordinary the world remains when yours falls apart. I had barely finished half the soup when pounding echoed through my apartment. 3 hard knocks. Then 3 more. I didn't need the peephole. I already knew. Emily, Daniel's voice, I know you're in there. Another series of knocks shook the door. Neighbors' doors began opening down the hallway. Wonderful. Exactly what I needed. I waited. The knocking continued for nearly 5 minutes. Finally, I unlocked the deadbolt. The moment the door opened, he pushed inside before I could invite him. His hair was messy. His clothes were wrinkled. His eyes were bloodshot from what looked like 2 sleepless nights. He looked nothing like the smiling man from the beach photographs. Finally, he ran both hands through his hair. What the hell are you doing? I closed the door behind him. What am I doing? Yes. You canceled our entire wedding. Our wedding. He blinked. As far as I can tell, I said evenly, you've started planning another one. His face tightened. It's not what you think. For the first time that entire day, I laughed. Not loudly. Not bitterly. Just one quiet, exhausted laugh. I was wondering when those words would show up. He stepped closer. Emily, please. Let me explain. I folded my arms. I'm listening. He opened his mouth, then closed it. For several long seconds, he couldn't find a single sentence. Finally, he exhaled. Her name is Victoria. I nodded once. So, we're starting with introductions. He rubbed both hands across his face before speaking again. I knew Victoria years before I met you. I assumed as much. We dated in college. I know. His eyebrows lifted. You know, the comments under your post were very informative. He looked away. We reconnected a few months ago. He nodded weakly. 3 months. 3 months. The exact amount of time he'd suddenly started working late. The exact amount of time our conversations became shorter. The exact amount of time he'd begun saying he needed space. So I said quietly while we were choosing flowers and tasting wedding cakes, you were rebuilding a relationship with your ex-girlfriend. It wasn't supposed to happen. There it is again. What? That sentence. He frowned. It wasn't supposed to happen. You say it like you slipped on a wet floor. His shoulders sagged. It just evolved. No. I shook my head. You answered messages. You met for coffee. You kept meeting. You lied to me. You booked a beach house. You bought or accepted another engagement ring. You posed for engagement photographs. Nothing about that evolved. Every step required a decision. He stared at the floor. I was confused. I believe that. I loved you. And I still do. But seeing Victoria again, he swallowed, brought back feelings I thought were gone. I remained silent. He mistook that silence for encouragement. I didn't know what to do. So you became engaged to her. His eyes closed. It wasn't supposed to become public. I actually blinked. I'm sorry. You weren't supposed to find out through Instagram. I laughed again. This time louder. He flinched. You think that's the problem? No. You think the issue is the timing? I was going to tell you. When? This week. This week. After spending the weekend celebrating your engagement, I wanted time. Time for what? He hesitated. His silence answered before he did. I stepped closer. Time to decide. His eyes slowly lifted to mine. You hadn't chosen. Another silence. You were choosing between us. He whispered. I didn't want to hurt either of you. The words landed harder than I expected. Not because they hurt, because they revealed exactly how he saw himself. As the victim. As the man forced to make an impossible choice. He honestly believed he deserved the luxury of deciding. You wanted options. No. Yes. I just needed clarity. You already had clarity. You proposed to me. You accepted another woman's engagement. You simply hoped neither of us would discover the other until you finished comparing futures. His breathing became uneven. You make me sound horrible. I'm describing your actions. They're different. He paced across my living room. You don't understand. Victoria. He searched for words. Her family's wealthy. I raised an eyebrow. So? She travels constantly. Her father offered me a position in one of his companies. There were opportunities. Experiences. A different life. I nodded slowly. So that's what this was. He looked confused. It wasn't about love. It was about upgrading. No. I loved you. And I loved parts of that future too. There it was. Finally. The truth. Not romance. Not confusion. Greed. The apartment grew quiet again. Outside, someone laughed in the hallway. Adobagu. Normal life continued. Inside, 20 months of shared memories quietly unraveled. I never stopped loving you, he whispered. But you stopped respecting me. His eyes filled with tears. I thought. He couldn't finish. You thought you could explore another future while I kept paying deposits for this one. His face lost what little color remained. I wasn't using you. Weren't you? The venue. The photographer. The caterer. The honeymoon reservations. The apartment we were planning to buy. I was building one future. You were auditioning too. He dropped onto my couch and buried his face in his hands. I've ruined everything. I didn't answer. Because, for the first time that evening, we agreed on something. After several minutes, he looked up again. I ended it. With Victoria. When? This afternoon. After your parents found out? He nodded. I realized I was making the biggest mistake of my life. No. I answered gently. You realized your secret couldn't stay secret. His jaw tightened. That's not fair. Neither was asking me to unknowingly compete with another woman. I wasn't making you compete. You already lost. His face twisted in confusion. What? The moment you believed another relationship deserved exploration while ours still existed. I picked up my engagement ring from the kitchen counter where I'd left it hours earlier. Our engagement ended. I slid the ring off my finger. The pale line beneath it looked almost unreal. For 8 months, that ring had rarely left my hand. Now it rested silently in my palm. Daniel stared at it. His breathing became shallow. No. He stood abruptly. Don't. He reached toward me instinctively. I stepped back. This belongs to a promise. I placed the ring carefully on the coffee table between us. You broke the promise. His eyes overflowed. Emily, I'll fix this. We'll go to counseling. We'll postpone. We'll explain everything. We can still save the wedding. I looked at him for several long seconds, then asked the question that had been sitting quietly in my mind ever since I'd opened Instagram that morning. Tell me something honestly. I will. If Victoria had never posted those photographs, his expression froze. Would you still be standing here tonight? Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. He opened his mouth, closed it again. I didn't need the answer anymore. His silence was the answer. I walked to the front door and opened it. You should go. He didn't move. I said I'm sorry. I know. I love you. I believe you think you do. His face crumpled. Please. I don't know who I am without you. I gave him the saddest smile I'd managed all day. You should have thought about that before trying to become someone else's fiancé. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then anger suddenly replaced desperation. So that's it. You're throwing away everything. I'm not throwing it away. You already did. I'm simply refusing to pick it back up. He grabbed the ceramic mug still sitting on my dining table. For one terrifying second, I thought he might throw it at the wall. Instead, he hurled the remaining cold tea toward me. The liquid splashed across my sweater and dripped onto the hardwood floor. You'll regret this, he shouted. When you calm down, you'll realize you've completely overreacted. My voice never rose. I am calm. His chest rose and fell rapidly. I pointed toward the hallway. Goodbye, Daniel. For several seconds, he stood perfectly still. Then he turned, walked through the doorway, without another word. I quietly closed the door, locked it, leaned my forehead against the wood. Only then did my hands begin to shake. The shaking wouldn't stop. Not because I wanted him back, because adrenaline has a cruel way of arriving after the danger has already passed. I slid down the door until I was sitting on the floor staring at the engagement ring still resting on the coffee table. 8 months. 8 months of planning a future that had quietly become optional to the man who promised it. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I stood up, grabbed a towel, and wiped the tea from the hardwood before it stained. Some habits survive heartbreak. Cleaning was easier than thinking. Around midnight, I finally managed to fall asleep on the couch. At 7:15 the next morning, my office phone rang before I'd even finished opening my laptop. Emily. It was Melissa, from reception. There's a gentleman downstairs asking for you. I told him we don't allow visitors without appointments. He says it's important. Who is it? She hesitated. Daniel's father. I closed my eyes. Send him up. Are you sure? Yes. 5 minutes later, there was a soft knock. Daniel's father looked nothing like the confident businessman I'd known for nearly 2 years. His suit was wrinkled. His eyes were bloodshot. He seemed to have aged 10 years overnight. May I come in? I nodded. He closed the office door behind him and remained standing. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, he sighed. I owe you an apology. That wasn't what I'd expected. For what? For my son? He sat down heavily. I didn't raise him to become this man. He folded my hands on my desk. I wish that were enough. So do I. He stared out the office window. When his mother called me yesterday, I thought there had to be some misunderstanding. I wanted there to be one. I kept telling myself there was no way Daniel could do something like this. He laughed bitterly. I spent 12 hours trying to invent excuses for him. I ran out. His honesty caught me off guard. I appreciate that, but it doesn't change anything. I know. Another long silence settled between us. Then he said something unexpected. He admitted everything. I looked at him carefully. Everything. He told me about Victoria. He told me he'd been seeing her for months. He admitted he accepted another engagement. He admitted he hadn't decided which woman he wanted. The words sounded even uglier coming from his father. He actually said those words. He said he was trying to figure out who made more sense for his future. I almost smiled. Not because it was funny, because hearing it confirmed I hadn't imagined anything. His father rubbed his forehead. I've never been more disappointed in anyone. He kept insisting he loved you. I'm sure he believes that. But love without loyalty isn't enough. He nodded slowly. No, it isn't. After another pause, he leaned forward. Emily, I'm not here to defend him. I'm here to ask for one thing. I waited. Would you at least postpone the cancellation? No. He didn't seem surprised. Just give him a chance. He says he ended things with Victoria. I know. He told me. He realized his mistake. I shook my head. He realized he got caught. His father's jaw tightened. I don't think that's entirely fair. Then, answer one question. He looked at me, expectantly. If I hadn't seen those pictures yesterday, would Daniel still be engaged to both of us today? He opened his mouth, stopped, looked toward the floor. Eventually, he whispered, I don't know. Neither do I. And that's exactly why I can't marry him. He nodded once, almost reluctantly. I understand your reasoning. But there are nearly 12 months of planning invested. The church, the vendors, the invitations, our families, the guests, our reputation. There it was again. Reputation, image, community, everything except trust. The contracts, I replied calmly, are in my name. The deposits came from my account. I'm canceling my wedding. I'm not asking anyone's permission. He looked genuinely pained. This isn't about legal rights. It's about grace. I leaned back. Grace is forgiving someone who tells the truth. It's not pretending betrayal never happened. He looked away. You've always been very strong. No. I've simply accepted reality faster than everyone else. His shoulders slumped. You know, when Daniel was little, he once broke his mother's favorite vase. He blamed the dog. We knew immediately he was lying. He smiled sadly. It took him 3 days before he confessed. I thought he'd grown out of that. I answered softly. He didn't stop lying. He just became better at it. His eyes closed briefly. I can't argue with that. For the first time since entering my office, he looked defeated. Not angry. Not defensive. Simply exhausted. He stood. I suppose there isn't anything else I can say. No, there isn't. He walked toward the door before stopping. My wife hasn't stopped crying. I didn't answer. He continued quietly. She keeps saying our family has become the church gossip. I remembered her words from the day before. The shame. Not concern. Not heartbreak. Shame. I'm sorry she's hurting, I said honestly. But she isn't hurting because I canceled a wedding. She's hurting because the truth became public. He nodded. I think you're right. He reached for the doorknob, then paused one final time. I hope someday you find someone who never makes you question whether you were enough. That sentence nearly broke me, because until then, I hadn't realized a small part of me still wondered. Was I not exciting enough? Not successful enough? Not beautiful enough? His father seemed to read my expression. This wasn't about you. It was about his character. Don't confuse the two. Then he quietly left. I remained motionless for several minutes after the door closed. Eventually, Melissa called through the intercom. Everything okay? I looked at the engagement ring still sitting inside my desk drawer. No, I answered truthfully. But it will be. That afternoon, as I was packing up to leave work early, a new email notification appeared from Pastor Michael Williams. Subject request for premarital counseling meeting. I already knew what it would say before I opened it. The battle wasn't over yet. I opened the email while the office slowly emptied around me. Emily, after speaking with Daniel and his parents, I believe it would be wise to delay final cancellation of your October ceremony. I would like to invite both of you to one premarital counseling session before any final decision is made. I understand emotions are high, but I believe reconciliation is still possible. Please let me know your availability. Pastor Michael Williams. I read it twice. Then, a third time. Not because I didn't understand it, because I couldn't believe what I was reading. He had seen the screenshots. He knew Daniel had proposed to another woman. Yet somehow, my responsibility was still to attend counseling. I closed the email, picked up my phone, and called the church. The receptionist answered immediately. Good afternoon, Grace Community Church. I'd like to speak with Pastor Williams. One moment. A minute later, his familiar voice came through. Emily, I was hoping you'd call. I just read your email. I'm glad. So, you'll come in? No. No. Silence. I don't believe counseling can repair this. I understand why you feel that way. No, I replied calmly. I don't think you do. Another pause. Then, he spoke carefully. Daniel's family has attended this church for over 30 years. I'm aware. They've supported countless ministries. I know. They're devastated. I don't doubt it. I'm simply asking for one meeting. I leaned back in my chair. Pastor, if Daniel had simply panicked about marriage, I'd come. If we'd been arguing constantly, I'd come. If we had communication problems, I'd come. But he proposed to another woman. What exactly are we counseling? He sighed. People make terrible mistakes. They deserve opportunities to repent. I agree. But repentance doesn't guarantee reconciliation. His voice softened. The church believes marriages are worth fighting for. We aren't married. We almost were. And the reason we aren't has nothing to do with conflict between us. It has everything to do with deception. He hesitated before speaking again. I've also spoken with Daniel. I'm sure you have. He seems genuinely remorseful. I'm sure he does. I believe he loves you. I closed my eyes. I'm sure he believes that too. But loving someone while secretly building another engagement doesn't make the betrayal smaller. It makes it stranger. He didn't answer. So I continued. You asked me to attend counseling. Let me ask you something. If a bride had secretly accepted another man's proposal while engaged, would you ask the groom to spend weeks proving the relationship deserved saving? The silence stretched much longer this time. Finally, he admitted, I don't know. I think you do. Neither of us spoke. Eventually, he cleared his throat. There is another issue. What issue? The family has requested that I hold your October date for a short time. I sat upright. I'm sorry. They're hoping. No. You can't. I haven't finalized the cancellation. I requested it yesterday. The church normally encourages reconciliation before, This isn't church policy anymore. This is pressure. His tone changed. I'm trying to minister to both of you. No. You're trying to protect one family. He sounded hurt. That's unfair. Is it? If Daniel's parents weren't among your largest donors, would we still be having this conversation? The line became perfectly still. He didn't deny it. That was answer enough. I'll be sending a formal written withdrawal. I expect confirmation that our reservation is canceled. I hope you'll reconsider. I won't. I ended the call. For several seconds I stared at my phone. Then I laughed quietly. Not because anything was funny, because somehow, even now, people still believed my role was to preserve everyone else's comfort, not my own peace. That evening I called my cousin Rebecca. Rebecca wasn't just family. She was also an attorney. She answered on the second ring. Please tell me you aren't calling to ask if you should take him back. Not a chance. Good. So what's wrong? I explained the church situation. She laughed. Actually laughed. They're serious. Very. They're refusing to release the wedding date. They're hoping counseling changes my mind. Rebecca snorted. Emily, they can't force you into counseling. I assumed as much. They also can't keep your reservation hostage, because someone's feelings are hurt. So what do? I'll draft a certified letter. State that you're formally withdrawing consent for the ceremony. If they refuse, we escalate. Legally. Absolutely. The reservation exists because both parties agreed. One party has withdrawn. End of story. Relief washed over me for the first time all day. I needed to hear that. I know. Then her tone softened. How are you really doing? I looked around my apartment. Wedding magazines still covered the coffee table. A sample seating chart leaned against the wall. Fabric swatches remained neatly organized beside the sofa. It looked like someone else's life. I don't know. That's an acceptable answer. I keep expecting to wake up. You won't. But one morning you'll wake up and stop expecting him to text. Then another morning you'll realize you haven't thought about him in hours. And one day, you'll wonder why you almost married someone capable of this. I hope so. You will. She paused. And Emily, yes, I'm proud of you. For what? For refusing to negotiate with betrayal. After hanging up, I finally allowed myself to cry. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quiet tears that came without warning. I cried for the apartment we'd almost bought. The honeymoon brochures tucked into a drawer. The children we'd talked about someday. The Christmas mornings that would never happen. I cried for the woman I'd been 48 hours earlier. She still believed promises meant something. By Wednesday morning, social media had become a battlefield. Daniel had deleted every beach photograph. Too late. People had already saved them. Screenshots spread faster than the original post ever had. Friends began choosing sides. Then one story appeared that made my stomach turn. One of Daniel's closest friends posted publicly, "Some women use money to control men. When they don't get their way, they destroy lives." Emotional abuse isn't always obvious. There was no name. There didn't need to be. Everyone knew exactly who she meant. The comments exploded. People asked questions, speculated, invented details. Within an hour, someone claimed I'd canceled the wedding because Daniel refused to sign a prenuptial agreement. Another insisted I'd frozen his bank accounts. Neither was remotely true. I stared at my phone. Rebecca had given me one piece of advice. Never argue with rumors. Replace them with facts. So I opened Instagram, created a simple post. No filters. No dramatic music. Just plain black text on a white background. I discovered my boyfriend had become engaged to another woman through his own public Instagram post. I canceled our wedding immediately. There was no financial abuse, no manipulation, no hidden agenda. I simply chose not to marry someone engaged to someone else. Anyone suggesting otherwise is welcome to explain why 2 engagement rings existed at the same time. Then beneath the statement, I attached 2 screenshots, one of Daniel kissing Victoria, one of my public comment, "Beautiful ring. Congratulations. She's a lucky woman." I pressed post. Then I put my phone face down. For once, The truth could speak for itself. I expected another wave of accusations. Instead, silence. For almost 15 minutes, nothing happened. Then my phone buzzed once. Another notification. Then 3 more. Then 20. I picked it up. The first comment simply read, "Wait. He was engaged to 2 women." Another followed. "Those are his photos." That's not emotional abuse. That's consequences. Within an hour, the conversation had completely shifted. People weren't asking why I'd canceled the wedding anymore. They were asking Daniel's friends why they defended him without knowing the truth. The woman who had accused me of being controlling deleted her story. 10 minutes later, she deleted her entire account. By evening, it had been reactivated. Private. Comments disabled. Not long after my phone rang again, Daniel's younger sister Hannah. For a second, I considered ignoring it. Instead, I answered, "Hello." Her voice was shaky. "Emily, can we talk?" "I'll listen." She took a deep breath. "I need you to know something." "I'm listening." I had absolutely no idea. About what? He told everyone he was spending that weekend helping me paint the nursery. I found out yesterday that he never came here. I wasn't surprised. "I believe you." "I feel awful." "You shouldn't." "He used my name." "I know." She sounded close to tears. My husband and I kept wondering why everyone kept asking how the nursery looked. We were so confused. I didn't understand until Mom called. I sat quietly. "I'm sorry he dragged you into this." Su Wang. There was another pause. Then she spoke more softly. "He's not okay." "I imagine he isn't. He's staying with our parents. He barely leaves his room. He cries. He keeps saying he destroyed everything." I looked out the window. People hurried along the sidewalk below umbrellas, opening as a light summer rain began falling. "I'm sorry. He's hurting. That's all." She sounded genuinely shocked. "Emily, he knows he messed up. He's desperate. He ended things with Victoria. He says he'll spend the rest of his life making this right." I answered carefully. "That's his decision. What about yours?" "My decision was made Sunday morning." She became frustrated. "People make mistakes." "Yes. They deserve forgiveness." "I agree. So forgive him." I smiled sadly. "Hannah, kissing someone while drunk might be one terrible mistake. Lying every day for 3 months, secretly rebuilding another relationship, accepting another engagement, planning 2 futures simultaneously. Those aren't mistakes. They're a series of deliberate choices." She didn't answer. So I continued. "If your husband secretly proposed to another woman, would you still be asking him to come home?" Silence. Long silence. Finally she whispered, "No, I didn't think so." Before hanging up, she quietly said, "I still hope someday you find happiness. I hope Daniel figures out who he wants to become." I hope so too. Friday afternoon brought the most unexpected phone call of the entire week. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. "Emily speaking." A man's voice answered. "Hey." This is probably strange. "My name is Ryan." I frowned. "I'm sorry. I think I'm the man whose proposal your boyfriend accepted." Everything inside me stopped. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, I said, "Then I suppose we're both victims." He laughed bitterly. I was about to say exactly the same thing. His voice sounded exhausted, not angry, just defeated. "I didn't know you existed." "I didn't know you existed either." Daniel told me he was single. He said he'd ended a long relationship months ago. I closed my eyes. He told me Victoria was simply an old college friend. Ryan let out a humorless laugh. Apparently, neither of us received the truth. We spent nearly an hour comparing timelines. Every answer created another contradiction. "When did you meet?" "About 3 months ago." 3 months. Exactly as Daniel had admitted. "When did he tell you he loved you?" Ryan gave the date. I opened my calendar. Daniel had taken me to dinner that same evening. He'd toasted to our future. He'd talked about honeymoon destinations. Later that night, he texted me, "I can't wait to marry you," while texting someone else. "When did he accept your proposal?" I asked. Ryan hesitated. Actually, I proposed. That caught me off guard. You proposed to him? Yes. I loved him. I thought he loved me. I spent months designing that ring. My chest tightened. He continued quietly. I wanted him to know I was serious. He cried. He said no one had ever loved him that completely. I looked at my own engagement ring inside the desk drawer. How many promises had he accepted? How many futures had he borrowed? Then Ryan asked something unexpected. Did he ever mention credit card debt? I frowned. What debt? Ryan sighed heavily. He told me his ex had left him with nearly $30,000 in debt. I've been helping make payments. My stomach dropped. He never mentioned debt to me. We kept our finances separate. Ryan became very quiet. I don't think there is an ex. I think every story was customized for whoever he was talking to. I slowly nodded. I think you're right. Another long silence. Then Ryan spoke again. I'm ending it. I already did. I don't do lies. Neither do I. I thought you deserved to know. And you deserve the truth too. Thank you. Before hanging up, he added, for what it's worth, I don't think either of us lost him. I think we escaped him. After the call ended, I remained sitting at my kitchen table. The rain outside had become heavier. Water streamed down the windows in long silver line. I realized something. For 4 straight days, I'd believed this story was about another woman. It wasn't. It was about one man who kept creating different versions of himself depending on who happened to be looking. There had never been a competition. There had only been deception. My phone buzzed again. A text message. Not from Daniel. From his mother. Emily, please meet us tomorrow. Just once. Coffee at 10. We have something important to say. I stared at the message for a long time. Every instinct told me not to go. Yet another part of me wanted one final conversation. Not for closure. For certainty. I replied with a single sentence. 10 o'clock. 1 hour. That's all. As I set my phone aside, I couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow wouldn't be about saving a wedding anymore. It would be about deciding who would carry the weight of its collapse.